Preaching on the yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, I'm not streaming from my normal studio right now, but it's all good. We're gonna make do. It's all fine. It's your boy RumboyzRobbie. That's the homie TDS Taco. This is Big Guy Fantasy Sports, BigGuyFantasySports.com. Make sure you check us out on our website, BigGuyFantasySports.com, for all the latest and greatest in articles, fantasy, sports, and gambling tools, podcasts, and much, much, much more. You can also check out the Goal Line Goons when you're on BigGuyFantasySports.com. Like it's just such a beautiful marriage that we got going on here at the Big Guy Fantasy Sports Network here on our YouTube channel. Be sure, ladies and gentlemen, to hit that like, drop a comment in the chat, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Before we get into tonight's show, we have an action-packed slate for you guys, a couple of games that we're going to play, so on and so forth. Leaf starts off with 2-5 with Lawrence, Goff, Eckler, Aaron Jones, Hunt, McLaughlin, Waddle, Moore, Palmer, Downs, Dell, Waller, Browns defense, and Fairbairn. Gonna need names to trade and trade for. We are going to be talking about trades. We are definitely going to be talking about trades. So stay tuned. I'm gonna have your comment. What I'm doing here right now, I am pinning that. I'm gonna go ahead and pin that so that I have a quick reminder to be able to come back and visit that as we go through tonight's show. Taco, you ready to do this?
Oh, cheer.
I'm gonna keep my head right here so that light doesn't do that weird shit again. You ready to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. It's for all the dogs. Cheers to me. Cheers to you, Big Guy Fantasy Sports. What it do? First thing we got to do, we got to get into the fantasy football consistency game show. We'll be back in just a minute. And we are back. No, I don't have my suit jacket because, well, like I said, I'm not in my normal studio. I had to work from my regular job in the office this week. First, for those that don't know, okay, the way the fantasy football consistency game show works, you guys can compete against Taco in the chat, and you can guess the consistency rating on a scale from 0 to 100. We try and keep this above 50%, but every now and then I'd like to throw in a curveball, okay? I will name 4 players, one at a time, one per position. All right? Taco has to guess the consistency rating of each player. There's some studs in here. There's also some waiver wire pickups in here. There's some names that you need to trade for. We're in the thick of the season, so we're about to keep it trill here on episode 8 of the Goal Line Goons. First up, at quarterback, Russell Wilson. How consistent is he? What's the percentage? Taco.
Russell Wilson?
Russell?
I want to say he's had like maybe 2 bad games. We're in like 7 games, right? So like 5 out of 7? What's 5 out of 7? Hold on, let me get a calculator. 5 divided by...
Don't calculate. You got to take a guess.
Yeah, 5 out of 7. That's my 71%, roughly.
Okay, you got 71%. And the answer is 57%.
Really?
57% of the time, he's consistent. The Broncos aren't good. Russell Wilson is actually pretty good for fantasy football. 8 weeks into the season at the quarterback position to be in that 57% range, to be in that 57 percentile, to be above 50% consistency is actually pretty good. Like you mentioned, there have been some down games. Every game for the Denver Broncos, statistically speaking, in real life, have been down games. But from a fantasy football standpoint, if I'm weak at quarterback right now, things haven't been going my way at the quarterback position. If I've spent high draft capital for a guy that hasn't been giving me dividends, Joe Burrow. You know, I might go ahead and I might make that move for a Russell Wilson. I might be able to pull off some name value type of a pitch and be able to make a situation happen there. I'm actually liking Russell Wilson from a fantasy football standpoint. I think that because of how bad the Denver Broncos are in real life, people aren't going to look at his fantasy stats and they're gonna sell you the farm. They won't sell you the farm, but you know you'll be able to pull off a good quarterback to make your team better. This is about making your team better. Forget them, fuck them. We don't care about them.
I mean, and remember this in most traditional leagues, Russell Wilson's QB 10, top 10 QB.
Yeah,
He's 57% consistent roughly, but he's still putting up numbers. Now, do I think that he's someone that I would love starting every single week?
It's an ugly start.
Yeah. It's like really like right now, I'd say he has KC coming up, which I really don't love starting him there. There's a bye, there's Buffalo. That game versus Minnesota, week 11, I'm definitely playing him. And then he runs off into a stretch. Week 13, week 14, week 15, Houston, Chargers, Detroit. Week 16, even New England. And week 17, he ends the season strong. And he could be one of those fantasy football key makers, you know, and championship holders at the end of the day. Because let's face it, you get a guy now that has that good backtrack schedule, especially if you have like one shaky QB and you need to get yourself another one. I mean, listen, anywhere that Russell Wilson's available, I am holding him on my roster at this point without bad quarterbacks.
It's definitely a trade target for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just think that there's a really easy case there to leave saying, hey, Russ, not the sexiest name, but low key gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
This is a trade that I'm willing to make. This is a guy I'm willing to go out there in trade talks. I think that I could pull something off for Russell Wilson, just due to the fact that he's on the Denver Broncos, and I might be able to catch that guy lacking. I think this is a guy that's in that top 10 that you can catch your opponent lacking. Next up, we have dun, 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 dun. The king is here. Dun, 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 dun. The king is here. King Henry, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's probably going to be brought up a lot throughout this show. So, like, just make this super quick. What do you got? Hurry up. Go.
I'm going to say 60% roughly.
He is 67%.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry.
Now it's getting hard to do the math here.
Yeah, 67% consistent of the time. We're going to touch on Derrick Henry a few different times throughout the show. We're going to touch on the Tennessee Titans situation. Pause. Just know Derrick Henry, super consistent. Depending on things that happen in Tennessee and with his movement, we'll talk about it later. I'm waiting on some information from a very close source inside that organization to see kind of how things are developing there. They're staying very close to the vest. This person won't even, you know, so we're waiting to see what happens with Robbie and his source. But Derrick Henry, depending on the landing spot, with the noise that's happening, there's a lot of noise happening with the NFL trade deadline coming up. I want to see if I can maybe pull him off of someone's roster, maybe use the fact of his age and such, and that it's been Tennessee and we don't know where he's going to go. mess with the other opponent's head a little bit and see if I can pull Derrick Henry away. Would you trade Komet and Shaheed for Kittle and Rondale Moore? 20-man PPR. My roster is Russ, JT, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Christian Kirk, Komet, and Jacoby Myers. I feel like the algorithm heard us talking about Russ and sent you to us, Josh. Josh, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Because you're getting the Kittle upgrade and it's a 20-man league, this is a league size in a format to where you need a stud. You want to go get that stud. Can you play the whole law of averages thing, making sure that the roster can stay balanced? Yes. But Kittle at this given point is probably going to give you more booms, whereas Komet is literally boom or bust. I think that the Kittle and the 49ers, they're back to making beautiful, sweet chin music. So therefore, I'm kind of siding on that side. It sucks that you're losing Shaheed, but the Shaheed Rondale Moore, to me, in my opinion, kind of feels like a fair trade. There's an unpredictable side on the Rondale Moore side of the equation with Kyler Murray possibly sitting back waiting in the fold. And I think that a lot of us feel like he is going to get that start as soon as he's fully ready to go. But I think that I would run it. Taco, any thoughts?
I think that's a real tough one. As you know, when you look at Komet and when you look at Kittle, they're actually tight ends 8 and 9 in single point PPR leagues. With Komet having a couple of boom weeks, mainly with Fields. And with Fields out, we've seen him struggle. And I think we've seen the rapport with Purdy. If I'm in a 20-man team with that team, I would do it just from the fact that I do feel more secure with Kittle for the rest of the season. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper, and if you're a Komet guy, Komet doesn't have the worst playoff schedule. He has Arizona and Atlanta in the final 2 weeks, whereas Kittle has Baltimore and Washington. At that point in time, it's like, who would you rather? And at the end of the day, I just trust San Francisco a lot more than I trust Chicago. And when you're coming in those playoff weeks, it'll just probably be a little bit nicer. But it's a really close trade. I like Shaheed as a throw-in piece, but your wide receivers are stacked. So like Robbie said, this move is for the tight end to put in more of an elite playmaker in a 20-man PPR where Kittle has shown the consistency of being a top tight end and in a system that uses him as a top tight end, and where Debo has had consistent injury issues. Same thing with
Hasn't been consistent injury issues. It's just this season it's been a little his injuries this year are more banged up injuries. They're not anything crazy.
You're right, but at that same point in time, there's an opportunity every time where he might get a little bit more target share, and that boosts his value even more. And in those games, he's a full stud, much higher than where he's ranked.
Has been kind of taking some damage lately. Obviously, he plays running back, so I just love Kittle so much more. Obviously, Kittle is health dependent just because of what we've known in the past of Kittle. I'm taking Kittle all day. And this is coming from a guy that did have a lot of shares of Komet because I do go late tight end draft strategy. If you're able to just swap the two, given 8 and 9 on the season, at the given moment, we're talking about splitting hairs. At rest of the season, when we have Kittle now on our roster, Josh, we're talking about winning a championship, health dependent. So I like the move. At 20-man PPR, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, baby. Let's keep it going, Taco, here on the Fantasy Football Consistency Game Show. At the tight end position, now I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I want all y'all to run out and go get this man. Dalton Kincaid. What do you think is his consistency rating heading into week 8?
Low.
Now let's remember, let's remember this offense will put both those guys out there in 2 tight end sets.
I'm gonna say it's under 50%. I don't know the exact calculation, so let's just call it a under 50%.
You got to you got to guess a percentage.
I would say he maybe had 20 something percent.
You want to say 20?
20 something?
33% consistent.
33. Okay, not far off.
Now, what this tells me, especially given the Dawson Knox injury. Now, first off, this is a clear-cut path towards the targets that Knox was getting, obviously going to Kincaid. Kincaid now becomes the passing tight end in this offense. But hanging around there at that 33%, at first, heading into this game, heading into this exercise, heading into this show that we're doing here tonight, I was thinking some of the same things that you were thinking. Ain't no way. But at 33%, and now I'm able to go out there and I'm able to grab you off of the waiver wire. This is something that I feel like I definitely have to do. I feel like I have to go full pot committed. This is the thing that all Dalton Kincaid truther's been waiting for. He's been hanging on at that tight end 29 position on the season. He's 42% rostered, 16% started. Opportunity is knocking on heaven's door. And I'm loving this with Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you think about how inconsistent, Gabe Davis is as a second target, it really opens up the door for a guy who in his last game had 8 catches on 8 targets for 75 yards to be another consistent, not home run hitter like Gabe Davis, but a singles hitter, which in PPR for a tight end,
you're not asking for a home run hitter anyways.
But bro, like what I'm saying to you is a player like this at the tight end is your fucking dream. This is exactly because that's a consistent point. If you're telling me you're getting 5 catches for 50 yards each week, that's a dream out of a tight end. That's that's a bonus touchdown. I don't really need you to get more. I need you to put up those consistent points. And at the tight end to get a consistent player, that's even more of a premium, I feel like, because that's usually such a quote unquote boom or bust position.
Let's go to Kincaid's college film. This is a guy who basically built like a heavyweight boxer, but goes out there and plays like and moves on the field like he's a power forward in the NBA. With that being said, with that being stated, I'm all in on Kincaid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a bad, especially if you're getting him off the waiver wire. He's not a bad flyer at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm all in on Dalton Kincaid. Now, one thing that I do want to point out that is an eyesore with the Bills offense from a fantasy football standpoint, Knox wasn't that high up in the tight end rankings in the freaking first place. All right. I'm hoping that Kincaid can give this offense a spark now that there's not going to have to be the predication of when they choose to go jumbo sets, when they choose to put out that 12 personnel. I'm thinking now, okay, well, Knox isn't able to do that. You have to now use Kincaid as an extra pass catcher. Having Kincaid out there as an extra pass catcher also could be positive for Josh Allen because, well, I have to pass the ball now. I have to get it out. And hopefully that can bring down his interceptions numbers, but that could also adversely affect it because maybe they begin passing a lot more. So going to be interesting. Call me once you go backstage for the NBA run pass. Knox was a red zone merchant. Yes. Knox was a red zone merchant. And I think that we're going to get some of that out of Kincaid. Kincaid, this is your time, your opportunity to prove that you could be a guy, you could really step up for yourself, your team, but us fantasy managers. And by the way, shout out to Stephon Diggs for saying that he does feel a little bit bad when he doesn't perform for us bettors and us fantasy football players. We do appreciate that. Finally, we round out the game with the wide receiver position. I gotta talk about no other than Zay Flowers right now. The Ravens dominated and possibly pummeled what we all thought coming into week 7 previously, one of the best offenses in the National Football League. I still think that they might be one of the best offenses in the National Football League. But Lamar is Lamarvelous, and he made this young man shine. Zay Flowers, what do you think his consistency rating is, Taco?
100%. I got him in the league.
I'm not that much. I'm a big fanboy, and I wish that it was 100%. It's 86.
See, I was like, it's one game off.
Zay Flowers, I keep telling you guys, look at his routes, look at his route chart, look at his route tree. I've said that a lot on my YouTube channel on Rumboyz Fantasy Network. But Zay Flowers, I think that this is a guy that you have to go and trade for. You have to see about getting. I think that this is a guy that if you have Zay Flowers, you need to be trading him for a premium. There's a two-side coin, a two-side equation when it comes to trading. My philosophy that if I have Zay Flowers on a roster and maybe I'm down bad right now in terms of my record, I'm looking at Zay Flowers right now is like, come get him. And I'm seeing if I can bring away maybe, a premium piece and a really solid flex piece or like or an RB2. Like let me see if I can go and let me see if I can trade away Flowers, get a Kenneth Walker, and maybe I grab a Terry McLaurin. Because I think that you can move Zay Flowers at premium right now, and you can use last week's game as a really solid pitch heading here into week 8. I don't think that you should be trading for Flowers. If you have Flowers, you should be fielding trades, but you shouldn't be fielding trades that aren't including a premium. You shouldn't just be selling this guy for peanuts just because he's a freaking rookie. I don't want to hear that. I can't justify that. But what I can justify is that you could probably bring back a premium and a solid flex. And in Dynasty, you could bring back a premium or you could bring back a solid flex and a top-end pick. Nice back end first, beginning of the second.
I mean, to be honest, in most cases, if I have Zay Flowers, I'm not trading him. Unless, like you said, it's like a real premium. I'm not even trying to explore trades because I think
to be record dependent. It has to be record dependent.
I mean,
if you're losing games, if you have Zay Flowers on your team and you're losing games, you have no argument in whether or not everyone on your team is tradable.
I mean, because think of it like this: he still hasn't really got his touchdowns going. He just he has one. Like that can come, and I think it will come with the way that they use him and the way that. So I think there's still more upside on the Zay Flowers, train. I don't think we've seen his full potential unleashed yet. I don't think we've seen his full fantasy value there. I think overall right now he's like wide receiver 24 or something like that at 1 point PPR. With no bonuses or anything like that. So again, I think he has the potential to be here and continue to grow. I think it's pretty clear, like Lisa's saying here, he is taking over as the alpha, and Andrews is looking like that consistent red zone threat, which kind of hurts Flowers a little bit. But again, I think he'll still get his. I'm not worried about it. I think he'll still get his.
Okay. And now we will get in to I don't necessarily want to say like it's like our favorite segment. This is no one's favorite segment, what we're about to have to go through and do here. Navigating injuries, ladies and gentlemen. No one likes navigating injuries, but it's definitely a thing that we have to do here in terms of fantasy football. I was pretty decent in in avoiding the injury bug this week. So I don't have any injuries that I really need to highlight that affected me too crazy. Dalton Knox affected me. I'm still missing, shares of Fields and Roshan. It was more so the bye weeks that affected me. How do you feel about just that part, Taco?
This week was
DK Metcalf did go down.
DK Metcalf did go down, but luckily for me, across the board, I've been pretty good. I actually benefited from an injury as I was riding Foreman, all Sunday, and really he had a huge performance for me. So it's interesting to see how Johnson comes back and impacts that workload and how that breaks down. But injury wise, I was mainly clean this week, and I think it's going to be
down.
Zach Ertz did go down, and Zach Ertz going down, I think also opens up a really good possibility for McBride there. I mean, I think we saw that going into the game, McBride was starting to take over snap share, and in his last what is it? Hold on, let me pull the stats back up. I had about hold on, I got it right here. Yeah. And is the game before Seattle, he had started to really take on a little, but he had 4 catches for 62 yards, which is his best game of the season. With Kyler Murray coming back and him now having that full opportunity to work as the potential number 1 tight end, I think he's a sneaky guy to get. He's rostered in 2% of Yahoo leagues, but I definitely would go to grab him. I think he has the upside to be a difference maker. I think I might like him a lot because you're figuring it's going to be a negative game script for the rest of the year, so they're going to be behind and it's going to be passing situations, so he can be a garbage time monster. So I think there's just a lot of good vibes that way, especially with how little he's rostered. I think that there's a great opportunity, especially to you add and Kyler Murray possibly could be back, which could be a nice boost for this team. I'm not saying Dobbs has been playing bad, but Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray. He is a good quarterback. I guess he's not the best quarterback, but he will go on that field and show he deserves to be there.
He's a Konami code quarterback. I mean, we'll see how he utilizes his legs, but we know that Kyler Murray is a guy that's going to go pick up yards on his feet. This offense is completely different. This coaching staff is completely different. And I think that Kyler could actually flourish in this. But yeah, Trey McBride, guy that I'm looking at tight end. Guy that I'm looking at tight end since we started off at tight ends, even though I said we were going to do something completely different and you just fucking went off on a tangent. So now I have to compensate. Yeah, I just called you out for that. I am going to go with Dalton Kincaid. I am sticking on the Dalton Kincaid train. Dawson Knox being out. We've been waiting for this as fantasy managers for the Kincaid breakout. We've started seeing a lot of we already know what Laporte has been. We ain't worried about that. Musgrave has been, hot, cold, kind of, here and there. Meyer looks like he may or may not be getting more involved in that Raiders offense. Give me Dalton Kincaid. Let's figure it out. I think Dalton Kincaid is definitely a guy that you need to be looking at. You need to possibly looking at rostering. Definitely available in leagues. Let's see here. He is, like I said, tight end 29, 42% rostered, 16% started. That's where I'm riding for tight end. I want to go ahead and get into wide receiver. More importantly, though, there's a guy. I ended that last segment with talking about Zay Flowers, and I kind of want to keep it on that Baltimore offense there. I can't believe I am really fucking saying this. 39% rostered. Or I'm sorry, 39% rostered, 12% started last week. We got some work out of Odell finally. We got some work on out of Odell. I really just want to take the time to kind of highlight him just because hasn't been a fantasy piece. He only had 8.6 fantasy points. not expecting it to go haywire. I'm not expecting it to go crazy, but I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I'm not gonna say Odell's season just yet, but they may have something brewing in Baltimore. They might be getting some things together. And Lamar had 395 fucking pass yards, 393 passing yards last week. He was elite. He was elite. I think you could probably get away with grabbing Odell. Another one that I do want to mention though also is from Indianapolis. That is Joshua Downs. 53% roster, 26% started. They're just starting to feed him. That's all there is to it. 125 yards in week 7, had a TD. They're going to start feeding him. They're going to start trusting him. He's earning his role. He's earning his spot. So those are the guys that I got at receiver this week. And you could probably grab one, flex the other.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me at receiver, I love Josh Downs. I mean, right now he's 37% rostered in leagues. If you look at his last couple of games, he's had at least 5 targets. I mean, 5 catches in each of those games. He's a touchdown in his last 2 games. Looks like that he's building some solid rapport with Minshew. Again, this is going to be a team that's going to be in negative game scripts. It's going to be a comeback team. It's going to be a fourth quarter deficit team, which gives him kind of juice. I'm liking him, and if he's available in anywhere, I'm trying to grab him. I think that going forward, he could be a very interesting player for you.
Okay. So we're both in on the Joshua Downs train then.
Oh yeah.
Okay. For me, a quarterback prospect. We're going to get into quarterback, then we'll end with running back. A quarterback that I'm super highly interested in, that Arizona Cardinals situation. I know that we do have a situation happening in Tennessee with the whole Levis and Willis type of situation. More Levis as things continue. We've already seen what we could see out of Willis. For me, I'm interested in grabbing Kyler Murray, who's 48% rostered right now. There's a 50-50 split for me as someone that's in 35 leagues that I might be able to go and get Kyler. If I can go ahead and I can get Kyler Murray, it's a worth it stab if I'm really, really struggling at quarterback. I think this is more of a move that you make in 2 QB formats. If it's single QB, there's no need to fret. There's plenty of other guys you can go and get.
I mean, in single QB formats, I've been storing him in 2 leagues on my IR pretty much since the draft. And they happen to be the leagues where I had Richardson. So, yes, please. Especially if you're able to store him in an IR spot until he's ready. Like, what is the harm? Unless you're having multiple injuries that you're navigating and now you don't have a free spot. But if you do have the capabilities of playing him or keeping him on the IR for now while he gets ready, I think that's a great move. You could figure it out once he comes back, but it's clear he's going to come back. And Robbie was saying, he's a Konami code. He's going to run. And guess what? Running in fantasy football is points. So let's not forget that.
No, absolutely. And then finally, to close out here, running backs that we're looking for on the waiver wire to help navigate our injuries. For me, I have to give just all the respect in the world. And maybe this is because like a few of the leagues that I'm in are deeper leagues and I've already had this guy rostered. But I think that his rostership is only going to build up more. His ownership's only going to build up more. And that's Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears, 49% roster, just 3% started. I've been in that 3%. I was in that 3% this past week. He's been doing pretty decent from what I see for between weeks 4 through 6. Week 4, he had 7.8 fantasy points, but then week 5, he popped off with 16.4 against Indy. Then Baltimore, against Baltimore, 8 points, 8.05. This is a guy that if Tennessee may choose to move on from Derrick Henry, which we'll talk about here in a second, I fully expect to take over a workload. I think that he's kind of shown that he can take over a workload. He's on the field above 50% of the time, averaging between, about 56, between 56 to 53-ish% of the snap share. I'm actually kind of in on Tajay Spears. Yet to have a touchdown this season, but obviously when you have King Henry ahead of you, that makes that a very difficult task. Well, if there's going to be no King Henry there eventually, we do head into the NFL trade deadline at the end of the week. I am all in on Tajay Spears. This is definitely one that you want to be ahead of the game on. You want to maybe grab him before they trade Henry away, so you can grab him before while everyone else isn't looking. I think this is more of a move that you can make if you have the luxury to make it, if you're in the positive in terms of your record in fantasy football. If you're down, I mean, I have no problems with you trying to go and swing and take the gamble. But Tajay Spears, RB41, with the amount of football that's left in the season, he could easily climb that ladder and be a top 24 guy should they move Derrick Henry.
No, yeah, he's definitely a solid guy, and he has some big play capability. So I definitely like his upside.
Really quick, the Citizen says, by the way, like, comment, subscribe. The Citizen, make sure you hit that like button as well. Mess with the algorithm a little bit, make more people like us and show us some love. I made a crazy trade, traded Puka, Nakua, and Dallas defense for Jefferson and a Chan. Okay, that is crazy, but as long as you get those pieces back, and if you have the luxury to be able to, I'm sure that you didn't make this trade without having a strong roster first. Defenses
And
you
record.
can stream for and record. Defenses you can stream for the most part, so it's really just Puka for Jefferson and a Chan. I'm not going to say that I don't like it. It's definitely a move for later games. You keep these guys, you roster them. Minnesota won last night and defeat the 49ers. So Jefferson's probably thinking in his head, hey, if we can keep ourselves afloat, baby, and if we can at least get us a wild card and give ourselves a shot, he's definitely going to come back. Minnesota just has to keep themselves statistically above water for Jefferson to come back. And then a Chan is going to come back and be a Chan. I'm fully confident in that. We'll probably get a Chan back maybe within a couple of weeks-ish here. So I don't mind planning a sit, plot, and hold for that move.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a running back that you want to grab off of waivers? Is it going to be DeMarcado?
Oh no, it's Henderson, Darrell Henderson,
You're good,
man.
You're good.
Hendo's making a comeback, and I really like when you saw he had like 18 carries. Hold on, I just had his stats up. Give me 1 second here. Darrell Henderson in his first game back on the roster, he was literally picked up to the practice squad, brought up. He had 18 carries for 61 yards, 1 touchdown. He only had 1 catch for 5 yards. But when you think about it, they put both Ronnie Rivers and they put Kyron Williams on IR. So they're going to be out for 4 weeks. This was the first game that he got to play, and he got pretty much the bulk of the carries. As we saw, Freeman only had 12 carries in this game. He had 12 carries for 66 yards. So, he still had a solid enough game that it's still going to be a timeshare. But with that touchdown upside, with how well, he knows the playbook and knows McVay, and he's had really good seasons with them. I'm totally grabbing him, especially if you're a running back needy team, which I know a lot of teams are with all the injuries and everything going on. So I have no problem getting Henderson, especially for these next couple of weeks as we wait to see Kyron Williams come back and go from there.
No, I love the Hendo call out, and plus he already knows the offense.
Yep. And there was a viral clip of him like pass blocking. He was saying like pass blocking is like riding a bike, and literally you saw him just holding the dude off. And in the McVay system, a running back that's really great at pass pro is gonna see the field, and that's why he played so much more than Cam Akers, even though they had invested the higher draft pick in Cam Akers.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude. That's a big motherfucker, bro. Trust me. Sat in the same room as him.
So
crazy interview.
That's a guy I like.
Crazy interview. It's weird. Yeah. Let's see here. We'll try and get through a couple of these next ones fairly quick-ish, okay? Okay. The 49ers are suffering back-to-back losses to both Cleveland and Minnesota. Should we be worried if not, they're still the upper echelon in the NFL? Or is this just like, hey, a case of 2 bad weeks back-to-back?
I mean, this is the NFL. Like the Jets beat the Eagles. Like anything could happen anytime. Like this stuff is real. I still need to see a couple more weeks of it being like this before I really start to ring the alarm. I think this is kind of like what you're saying, just a couple of bad weeks for a good team where they're probably underperforming and playing down to their competition rather than really getting hyped up. And this is a team that consistently finds themselves in the playoffs and making deep playoff runs. So I think that it's kind of more an anomaly. I mean, they were undefeated going into these 2 losses, so this is gonna happen. This is the regular season. It's a war of attrition, and I am not worried about them. I still think they're one of the top teams in the NFC. I still think that them and the Eagles are going to be the teams that end up playing to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think that the Lions can match up to those 2 teams. And right now, they just need to get the ship right. I think Brock Purdy still shows that he can get the job done, but I think that you probably have to figure out a way to make sure that you protect McCaffrey, but make sure you utilize the run game. So I think that'll be the real key. I think Purdy showed off some nice plays, but I also think that we kind of want more. He only had 1 touchdown last night. You're going to need to do a couple more touchdowns, especially in some of these bigger games. So the question is, can he also keep elevating like he seemed to have done whenever he's faced, a challenge?
This is saying, hey, Purdy's a top 2 fraud QB in my opinion. The other is Herbert.
The good thing about Purdy is that
that Herbert take, I'm starting to lean a little bit more towards what the citizen is saying with that. But I think it's more so of a case of Brandon Staley, and I'm just going to keep riding with the fact that it's Brandon Staley until I see Herbert with a new coach. I'm going to just keep blaming Staley. I'm not ready to say that about Herbert yet.
For Purdy,
Purdy, he's Mr. Irrelevant, so you have to cut him some slack.
How could you be a fraud when you're like the cheapest contracted quarterback that's starting?
Yeah. Making this making this one fairly quick here. Where I do have concerns, I do have worries. I have worries when we get into playoff football for the 49ers. 49ers will be in the playoffs. I'm not denying that. Not debating it, not disagreeing with it. 49ers will be in the playoffs. With that being said, I think that if this team heading into the playoffs doesn't have Debo, doesn't have, McCaffrey's been banged up week in, week out, and we just wait and we're like, please play, please play, please play. Kittle, we already know how things can flip-flop with him. And then also, more importantly, they didn't have Trent Williams, the best offensive lineman in football. Hands down, in a fucking league of his own when it comes to being in the line. It's probably him and Jason Kelsey in right now in today's NFL. If you don't have these clearly significant pieces, more importantly, Trent Williams, I worry for your playoff future and how deep you can go. I think that this team showed last night it's only as good as as close to 100% everyone can be on the field together. I think that if over the last 2 weeks we've shown if pieces are too banged up or just not playing at all, 49ers aren't. Maybe you shy away from the Niners a little bit. And that's also on the Vegas lines. And that's also in, fantasy football, you're still playing them because they're going to go out there, they're going to put up a fight. It's a Shanahan offense. But don't be surprised. I think that you can't be surprised if they let you down.
But that's kind of what happens with this team builds. Like when you get a Patrick Mahomes who you can pay and say, listen, bro, I need you to go out there on one leg and beat the Bengals. Do it. And he's able to go out there and do it. Like, you know what I mean? There's two builds. And this build is the Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevance, coming in and saying, we're going to show you how team gets it done. So like you're saying, you start missing some cogs, and now it's not the
big
same
cogs.
team.
Big
Yeah,
pieces.
Exactly. So you don't have the big quarterback to make up for some of the guys being out where, you know, when you have Mahomes, you could do that because he's just so ridiculous. With Purdy, you need to make sure you have everything in place so this way they can go out and execute a game plan like a fucking general on the field battling another team, and that's how they're going to win. And you're going to utilize CMC like the ultimate.
Also in that offense, though, it doesn't matter who's under center. There's not a lot of wiggle. It's a very strict, very to the T, like a type of offense. Like you're not gonna plug in Aaron Rodgers into that offense. You know, he's an innovator. He's gonna call things at the line. You need a guy that's gonna go in there, shut up, color, and do their job.
And the good thing is, especially with having a guy like CMC, is you don't want someone that's going to deviate, because in certain cases it may not look like CMC has anything, but he'll make something happen, or they're using that for later on down the road when they do the play action off of it. You know, sometimes they want you to run him in there, so they think that it's going to be a run and use that for play action later.
Last night, I feel like we saw Debo, a guy that can take over a game and put it in his own hands. Trent Williams on the offensive line. We already know that. We've seen it a million times. You know, they had Kittle healthy. They had Ayuk healthy. They did their damn thing. CMC, a guy that can – these are guys that can change the trajectory of a game very rapidly. So if their presence is missed, like I said, I just worry about their playoff hopes. Those are my only concerns. I still think that this team is in the upper echelon of the NFL, especially with the offensive play calling. I don't think that none of you guys out there should worry. Let's see here really quick. Let's get into the next segment, the next topic. We've been hinting at this all night long, all night long. The Tennessee Titans are apparently willing to entertain trade talks surrounding running back Derrick Henry. Where would you like to see him land if they make the move? I have been messaging every freaking source that I have within the Tennessee Titans to try and get information for YouTube. And I have gotten the cold shoulder. I can't get info on Tannehill could even they're about to fire sell the whole thing. But what are your thoughts on King Henry? Where would you like him? I think he gets moved.
Bro, like that is so freaking tough. Because I mean, do the Titans trade them in the AFC? Because if they trade him in the AFC, I mean, the logical choice is like get him to the Ravens. Like the Ravens need a running back, and you put a guy like that there, it could be really interesting. But I doubt a trade like that realistically happens. I mean, other than that, I mean, the NFL is weird right now, man. Like nobody cares about running backs. Like
if you're getting so let's
like maybe the Eagles, but then the Eagles already got Swift, so it's kind of like I can see the Eagles doing it because they're like, we're a Super Bowl contender. Maybe the Lions, but you got Montgomery. You know what I mean? Falcons, no. Seahawks, you got Walker. Cowboys, maybe the Cowboys because they're ridiculous.
I can see Seahawks doing it. What's funny, you bring up the Cowboys. Jerry Jones said an interesting quote today, interesting statement today. We will entertain trade talks. And we want to entertain trade talks. We are not reaching out to other teams. You can't get anything done, bro.
Yeah.
If you don't talk. if you don't at least try, I think that Derrick Henry in Dallas would be a really good fit. It would help Pollard. It would bring back that Zeke Pollard, type of feel. Maybe even possibly even cancel out Pollard, unfortunately, for fantasy managers.
Yeah.
But I think
that's the one option I really don't.
That could be a thing that elevates Dallas. I think that Dallas should be maybe having a conversation with Denver and trying to acquire Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and the likes.
Another team is
hold on. But more importantly, like with Derrick Henry, I think that even the Chiefs could try and make a call.
Again, with Pacheco playing as good as he is, and them having so much capital, I just don't see like they need to spend that on a wide receiver to help him more than a running back, because
they just brought back Miko for that reason, so they didn't have to spend for a receiver. You have a quarterback that doesn't need.
But then I don't see them double down and getting you another running back when you have Pacheco, who's playing so well for that team.
Yeah, because I can get rid of McKinnon.
What makes it hard.
I can get rid of McKinnon. I can get rid of CH, and I can bring in Henry. And I could use Henry and Pacheco.
But then who's your pass catcher? Like, because that's where you see that's
Pacheco.
where you were using McKinnon a lot, is in those passing type roles where he can be a dynamic playmaker.
Henry to the Bills is
that's an interesting one. I think the Bucs are another team too, because the Bucs right now are sitting in the playoff spot, and White is nice, especially in that pass catching role. But if you can get them, especially when you have Baker Mayfield as your quarterback, a guy like Henry to supplement White, I think that becomes actually a very, very interesting.
So pick one spot. Pick one spot where you want to see Derrick Henry land.
I'd like to see him go to the Bucs. I
want better for Derrick Henry than obviously Taco does. Go to Detroit. Go to Detroit or go to Dallas. I want to see you in Detroit or Dallas.
Pick one. Dallas? I don't know, man. Dallas. Okay.
This is me being an analyst and removing the fact that I'm a Washington fan. If Dallas needs something to get them over the hump, Dallas needs weapons. They're kind of basic. They're bland. At least as bland as they are, they can be like, oh, we'll just go old school, run between the tackles with Derrick Henry. They're not creative. They need some sort of spark.
They're 4-2.
That doesn't. We're talking. I forgot. You're looking at record and you're just like, oh, like this means it's okay.
No, I mean, yes.
Looking deeper. That 4-2 is not a good 4-2. That's not a good 4-2. That's the least scariest 4-2 team that we have right now. Yeah,
the NFC though is not really that strong. So I think even with them not being a strong 4-2, I still think that they're going to be maintaining a playoff position, whether or they trade for Henry or not. I don't even think the running game is a problem in Dallas. They're barely even using it. Tony Pollard's not even getting crazy usage, and they're in love with those other bags because they're running them all the time. So again, I just don't see Dallas then going and making a trade for Henry. But I mean, Jerry Jones, that's the kind of thing that Jerry Jones would do. That's why I did mention them as well. So I mean, I don't not see it either.
It'll definitely be interesting how that happens. So either way, we both agree, King Henry, new landing spot.
Yeah. If they're willing to spend for it, because that's the goddamn thing. Nobody wants to pay for a running back.
If I have King Henry in fantasy, depending on that landing spot, will depend on. I don't even think that the landing spot is going to dictate whether or not I choose to trade him. I think that hearing just alone that he might get moved and knowing that he's 29, I see the Tennessee Titans personally being in a position of, hey, let's do right by you and try and get you as close to a Lombardi as possible because we're not doing it anytime soon. and I see them trying to do right by him in the best scenario possible. So I think that's where I hesitate about moving him free landing spot. It's just I think that Tennessee's going to try and hook him up, and if Tennessee hooks him up, like you said, Baltimore or Leafs mentioned the Bills. We listed off a couple of teams. Shit. And I can see Derrick Henry at this point in his career being like, I'll take a pay cut to get a ring.
I mean, he'd be pretty cool with the Commanders, especially with the way those running backs have been. But he ain't going to win a ring there. That's the problem. The question is, that's why it's like the James Harden question. But it's the James Harden question.
Yeah.
Does he want to put up stats or does he want to win a ring?
Rivera's about to be gone, and Eric Bieniemy might not even be there. So,
yeah, I doubt they're training for anything. Exactly. But it'd be cool.
And final topic of the night here on the Goal Line Goons. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate y'all. You already know the vibe. Interesting stats in the fantasy football world dropped today. 2.7% of teams on Sleeper are winless heading into week 8. I have 35 leagues. I have one team that is winless. I am part of that statistic. But 2.3% of teams on Sleeper are still undefeated after week 7. I have no undefeated teams. I have teams with 1 loss. I have no undefeated teams. It's a very small margin. I can't recollect the last time I saw some shit like this. So clearly everyone is having some troubles. Everyone's going through some pain. So we're going to go all the way back up. We are going to start actually with Leafs, with Leafs comment, and then I'll bring up a couple of other scenarios. We'll try and get through these. 2 and 5 with Lawrence, Goff, Eckler, Aaron Jones, Hunt, McLaughlin, Waddle, Moore, Palmer, Downs, Tank Dell, Waller, Browns D, and Fairbairn. Gonna need some trades and trade 4. I'm moving Aaron Jones, but the thing is with Aaron Jones is whether or not you could get something positive out of him. Hunt's gonna probably start winning games with Ford being out. So I don't know if you move. You can't move Hunt. I mean, if you move Hunt, you have to catch someone panic selling. You're probably trading to someone who's going through an injury situation as well, and has probably been on a couple of losses. McLaughlin, tradable at 2 and 5. Your whole roster is tradable. I'm assuming that's Elijah Moore.
Yeah, which more that because that could be DJ Moore too. Waddle and Jones and Eckler, I think I agree with you as being like very tradable pieces. Eckler being something that could probably actually bring you a couple of pieces that you might need to make a run because at 2 and 5,
at 2 and 5,
you're gonna have to go on a run.
Yep, you're gonna have to move so you have to move Eckler.
But at the end of the day, you need running backs to replace. So I don't know if you're starting 2, then you got to calculate for bye weeks and everything like that. And you might have to take one shot and say, if anyone gets hurt, so be it. But this is going to be
you could move Eckler for 2. You could move Eckler for 2 pieces.
Yeah, running back
and more than like guy. You could go to the guy that's the top dog in the league. You could be like, give me your premium at receiver and your RB2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or give me your wide receiver 2 and your RB2.
But, I mean, you have Waddle, DJ Moore, Palmer with, Mike Williams down has upside. Downs has been blowing up. Dell has upside. I mean, at wide receiver, you're not terrible either. Where it might be better to deal Waddle and Jones to get an upgrade at running back and maybe a secondary receiver because it's harder to find a running back.
I like a Waddle and Jones pairing to definitely bring back someone that's higher up than Waddle.
actually higher up than Jones, because you would probably go target a running back there and then get like the second as like a throw-in wide receiver kind of setup, because you'll still have a solid wide receiver, solid enough wide receiver core. And you're really banking on Eckler and that other running back to be consistent.
Yeah. Here, let me see something here really quick.
Because more Palmer and Downs right now, I mean, the way it's trending, they seem like they should have enough volume proposition for the rest of the season, and just to be like, it's worth the risk to play them almost every week.
I would be willing to
And that's not even talking about Tank
I'd be
Dell
willing
either.
to move Eckler. I'd be willing to move Eckler and be like, give me McLaurin, your RB2, and like snatch something that's solid off their bench. Like if they have like a JSN or like an Addison, you know what I mean? Like I'd be willing to do something like give me like McLaurin, Walker, and like a solid, someone that's been pretty solid on your bench, like your best bench piece. Like I'd be willing to do that. Like give McLaurin, Rashee Rice, and Walker. Like I would run that. I would run that.
I mean,
For
to
Eckler,
me, what I
would run that.
I would for Waddle and Jones, I would see what's the best possible upgrade I can get regardless of position, because you still got Hunt. I would like a running back, but if it's a wide receiver, it's a wide receiver. But I would get the best possible value I can get out of that combination of Jones and Waddle.
Dotson's droppable.
Yeah. Although with he actually had one of his best games last week, so it's kind of crazy.
That was because they hyper targeted him for some fucking stupid reason, because Rivera.
I know, but what if that happens again? He had an anomaly game. I agree.
Was someone you would trade Gibbs for?
That's so weird. He's like a weird player this year.
Like, the thing is what do you really think that you're gonna get in return? Like, I mean, like he's RB29, so like you're not moving into the top 24. Like, I mean, he had his best week this week, but Monty's gonna come back, so that changes everything. 11 carried the ball 11 times, 68 yards and a TD. Had some work in the receiving game, 58 yards in the receiving game.
How many catches though?
He was 10 for 9.
That's the only reason why I'm just like, it's almost impossible to move him for value. And if he's able to get, like, I don't really care sometimes about the 9 catches. That's 9 points in PPR leagues, plus whatever else he gets. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at that. That's a safe ass player to get. You know what I mean? So, do I think he's going to maintain that? No, but you're never going to get fair value for him. If you're desperate, trade for what you need. That's the only way I would trade Gibbs. If you're desperate and you need,
I feel like Gibbs is one of those pieces that, for the most part, from what my experience has been, you're pretty much stuck with them. Like,
yeah,
people don't.
You're not dropping him.
Yeah, it's like you can't drop him, but you can't exactly trade him because people ain't trying to hear that noise. Yeah, He came off a good week. Everyone's gonna look at that good week because Monty was gone. No one's gonna forget that Monty wasn't there. Dossie Scope Z. Full PPR, 12-man. I have JT, Kyron, and Gibbs. Should I trade Drake London and JSN for David Montgomery to stack with Gibbs? It wouldn't be a stack. You'd be I mean, I guess because I don't think that's when David Montgomery comes back. I think it goes back to the way that offense was functioning. My receivers are CD, AJ Brown, and Brent Ayuk. You're keeping your receivers exactly the way that they are. JT hasn't. Looked all right last year. Zach Moss still feels like he has like a fucking chokehold on that offense. Drake London and JSN. You're getting the upgrade in David Montgomery. And then that way, I mean, JSN right now, if DK's out, JSN becomes a focal point. They already said they were going to try and start making him a focal point. But double flex league, I could play both. In London every week. I'm 5-2 and third place, so you don't really need to make the move. You don't really need to make it.
If you ask me, and I have your team, and I know that I have Kyron down, JT's kind of in a weird predicament, and Gibbs is not consistent. Trading Drake and JSN when I have receivers of CD Lamb, AJ Brown, and Ayuk, it's no question to me. I want that deal. Even though I have Gibbs and Montgomery, I am doing it as Montgomery's the lead back, and God forbid anything happens to my main investment. I see that that my guy here now becomes more viable. And in some cases, we've seen two running backs perform in two two top 24 guys, and there's been numerous cases of this where if Gibbs is maintaining like a 7 catch or 5 catch per game kind of number, which very well could be possible. Williams didn't do anything with his targets. There's really no clear cut other than Laporta. It's Laporta, St. Brown, and that's kind of where that role for Gibbs kind of really could step in to consistent 4 to 5 catches, and at that point he might work his way into flex. So I'm not mad with like you saying they're playing.
He's outside the top 24, so I mean, still keeping him, and if he can become a 24, then
if he's outside the top 24, he's a flex. Because at that point,
I'm not mad at this at all. I'd much rather have Montgomery than have fucking Drake London on my team. JSN is the only
London's getting hot.
My homeboy has CMC and ETN. Hang on. My homeboy has CMC and ETN. His bench is Lockett, JWJ, Pierce, Curtis Samuel, Deontay Johnson. Kind of want to snake someone from his roster if Damian Pierce.
And
Lockett would be someone I'd go after. Pierce would be someone I'd go after. Johnson would be someone I'd go. His whole bench is actually pretty decent.
I like Johnson. He was pretty good in his first game back, and hopefully Pittsburgh is able to pick it up on offense. I love ETN. I think he's a guy that if you can get, you can figure a way to get him, I definitely go get him. But other than that, I'm Lockett as well. Like he said, Lockett is just so consistent. Like
his bench is nasty.
Yeah.
He has like okay. So if I were to rank him, I would go Lockett, Johnson, Pierce, Samuel, JWJ. All in for ETN. Fuck. If you could go,
he's a touchdown monster right now.
Are you ready to trade Devontae yet? I got an offer of Amari and Hunt for him. 2 guys, same offense. Still might work. Current receiver,
and Amari is
Cup, Devontae, Jacoby, Deontay Johnson, and D-Hop. RBs are thin. Kamara, Jacobs, Hendo, Gainwell, Herbert on IR. Fuck.
I definitely don't do it. I definitely don't do it.
You don't get rid of
Devontae's not going to be this bad all season. He will have a resurgence.
You don't get rid of Devontae Smith?
Not now. Not for that. Not Amari fucking Cooper. No, I don't trust the Browns. I like Hunt. Don't get me wrong. I like Hunt. But the upside there is so with Smith, and you, like you said, you're getting 2 pieces to the same offense. It's just like
it's ugly.
And I know that there's an injury there with Ford, and it's like Hunt now is going to get more volume, and that makes it a bit more attractive. And if I'm in a position where I have a losing record, and again I need to go on a run, then I would consider that. But as of now, no, I would keep Smith. I think that he should rebound. That Eagles offense isn't this bad as it's been over these last couple of weeks. And he's one of those kind of guys where you're going to go down with this shit because any given week he can definitely blow up. And this Eagles offense is known to do that. And A.J. Brown right now is on the bender, and Smith will get his time back.
I don't think that Smith gets his time back, but I also don't like Amari Cooper. Can we find a different option at receiver? DM me, Jacob, at RumboyzRobbie. Boom, it's right there. There's my tag. It's on the screen right there. DM me. And we can talk about this a little bit more just because we're about to wrap up here. I don't want you getting I don't mind the Hunt part. I don't want you getting Amari for Devontae. Same, but different. That's the way I'd put that.
It's a downgrade. It's the same, but a downgrade.
Yeah, same, but different. Like the quote the movie. I'm going with like the comedy sketch there. Just seems like Devontae is the fourth option on offense behind Brown, Goddard, and Swift, and single-digit PPR points in 4 of 7 games. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want you to make the move off of him.
If it's the right player, but again, like I know that he's had a bad stretch, but when you look at it, it's been the last 3 games where he's really been bad, and it's been 4 of the last 5 where he's had these bad games.
Amari Cooper's wide receiver 44 on the freaking year, bro. Like, no. Like you're downgrading. Like, I mean, you're right about DeVonta Smith. You have every right to be. He's giving you 8-point stable floors over the last 2 weeks. You're right to panic about it, but we need to find a better option if we're gonna make that move. We got to find a better option if we're going to make that. I don't mind Hunt being a part of it.
Just remember this. Despite how bad Smith has been, he's still wide receiver 30 on the season. Okay, and again, I get everything that you're saying about these last couple of games.
Yes, it's true. Yes, he did have his bye. That does affect his ranking. I understand that. I don't think that his ranking gets better.
But yes, this offense can sustain 2 top wide receivers. And they haven't scored that well in the 2 previous games, 14 and 23 points. And yeah, he'll bounce back. No, I have full confidence he's going to bounce back. Not a question.
I have no confidence in DeVonta Smith, but I never have, even when he was decent. Lukewarm at best. Like when you pull something out of the microwave, but like the middle of it's still fucking like cold. Yeah. This has been the Goal Line Goons, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to DM us. Any other questions you have, DM us. Mm-hmm. All right. Would you trade Carr for Roschon Johnson and Jonnu? Yes. But this has been the Goal Line Goons. We greatly appreciate all of you. Like, comment, subscribe. BigGuyFantasySports.com is where you can catch all of us, catch all the latest and greatest articles from the whole entire staff. Big shout out to our CEO, Bob Long. Be sure to catch us next year at the Fantasy Football Expo. It's going to be litty. And yeah, we just appreciate everyone for tuning in. Catch out the rest of the shows on the channel for the rest of the week. Profit like it's hot, consistently cashing, and much, much more. All the articles and our tools on BigGuyFantasySports.com. Head over to the website, get a subscription. It's actually pretty damn cost effective, honestly. We appreciate all of you guys. Hey, it's for all the dogs. Hey, hey.
Preaching on the